What if the secret to mastering your life isn't about more willpower, but understanding your brain? Every single choice you make, what you eat, how you spend, who you trust, even how you respond to failure, is driven by your brain's invisible wiring. Yet most people live unaware of this powerful machinery, repeating patterns they don't want, and wondering why they feel stuck. Today we're unlocking the neuroscience of decision-making for life mastery. You'll discover how your brain shapes every decision, how emotions and chemistry influence your behavior, and most importantly, how to rewire your mind for clarity, control, and lasting success. If you've ever wondered why you do what you do, and how to make better, smarter choices every day, this is where the journey begins. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Choice. Unveiling your brain's defaults. Every day you make thousands of choices. You decide what to eat for breakfast, which route to take to work, how to reply to a message, when to speak, and when to stay silent. On the surface it feels like you are steering every one of those moments with free will. But beneath that sense of control, there is a quiet, tireless force shaping nearly everything you do. Your brain's automatic decision system. Your mind is a masterpiece of efficiency. It evolved to survive, not to analyze every situation in detail. Each second, it's bombarded with over 11 million bits of information. Sounds, colors, sensations, smells, memories, and emotional cues. Yet your conscious mind can only process about 40 bits of that enormous flood. To handle this gap, the brain builds shortcuts, mental programs that let you act fast, conserve energy, and stay alive. These shortcuts are what psychologist Daniel Kahneman famously called System 1 thinking. Quick, automatic, and intuitive. System 1 keeps you from touching a hot stove, helps you hit the brakes when a ball rolls into the road, and lets you finish familiar sentences without thinking. But this lightning-fast system has a cost. It doesn't know the difference between what keeps you safe and what keeps you stuck. That's where System 2 comes in. The slow, deliberate, rational part of the brain that questions, plans, and corrects. It's the one you use when you calculate your budget, learn a skill, or decide whether to quit your job. Unfortunately, System 2 is lazy. It takes effort, focus, and willpower. So most of the time we let System 1 run the show. Think about the last time you grabbed your phone to check a notification. Did you decide to do it, or did your hand just move? That's autopilot. The brain loves the familiar, because familiarity means safety, and safety means less energy burned. Evolution rewarded those who conserved mental fuel. Today that same instinct keeps us scrolling, snacking, and repeating patterns long after they stop serving us. Plunder, brain's economy of energy. Your brain makes up only 2% of your body's mass, but consumes about 20% of its energy. To manage that huge cost, it automates as much as possible. Every repeated behavior, driving to work, brushing your teeth, reacting to an email, gets coded into neural loops that run with minimal oversight. The more a loop fires, the stronger it becomes. Neuroscientists call this neurons that fire together, wire together. So when you hear someone say, "That's just how I am," what they're really saying is, "That's the pattern my brain has rehearsed most often." Change then isn't about force, it's about rewiring those loops. And that begins with noticing them, the hidden biases behind every decision. Your brain's automatic pilot isn't just about habits, it also filters the world through biases that distort what you see. It's why two people can watch the same debate and walk away with opposite conclusions. Anchoring bias causes you to rely too heavily on the first piece of information you hear, like assuming a $100 shirt on sale for $60 is a bargain, even if you wouldn't have paid $60. Availability heuristic tricks you into thinking what's easy to recall is more likely to happen. Hear about one plane crash on the news, and suddenly flying feels dangerous. These shortcuts evolved to protect us, yet in modern life they often sabotage clarity. They guide your spending, your relationships, your confidence, and even your self-worth. The comfort of familiar choices, your brain's default mode network, the system active when you daydream, loves to replay memories and project similar future. That's why you tend to recreate the same relationship dynamics, career frustrations or money struggles. The mind finds comfort in the known, even if it's painful. It whispers, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't." To break free, you must catch yourself in the act. When you feel resistance to change, when you rationalize staying the same, pause and ask, is this choice coming from growth or comfort? That single question awakens System 2. It interrupts the trance. Every time you do it, you carve a new micro-pathway of awareness. How to catch your brain in autopilot. Notice repetition. If you react the same way to a situation every time, it's likely a program, not a choice. Label the pattern. Naming what's happening, "Here's my avoidance loop again," reduces its grip. Change the micro-action. Even a tiny shift, standing instead of sitting when you think, breathing before replying, tells the brain something new is happening here. Reflect. Don't judge. Awareness without criticism keeps the prefrontal cortex engaged and calms the emotional centers that crave the familiar. With repetition, this practice strengthens the neural pathways for consciousness itself. You become the observer, rather than the puppet of your programming. From automatic to aware. The moment you begin to observe your thinking, you start to reshape it. This is the first step toward life mastery. Not adding more control but understanding the hidden forces that already steer you. When you realize how much of your free will is a set of learned responses, freedom takes on a new meaning. It's not doing whatever you want, it's knowing why you want it. So pause the next time you catch yourself saying, "I had no choice." You did. You just didn't see it. Because the truth is, choice begins not in the world around you, but in the space between thought and awareness. That space is where transformation starts. Chapter 2. Neurotransmitters and the Decision Roller Coaster. Every thought, every desire, every yes or no in your life has a chemical signature. Your decisions are not born in silence. They are electrochemical storms happening inside your skull, orchestrated by microscopic messengers called neurotransmitters. They are the invisible currency of your inner world. They determine what you crave, what you fear, what excites you and what you avoid. And once you understand how these tiny molecules drive your behavior, you begin to see life with new clarity, not as a series of random choices, but as a biochemical pattern you can learn to master. The dopamine dilemma. The brain's reward chemical dopamine is often called the feel-good neurotransmitter, but that's not quite true. It's not about happiness. It's about anticipation. Dopamine is the chemical of motivation, pursuit, and possibility. When you see a notification pop up on your phone, when you imagine success, or when you think about your favorite food, your brain releases dopamine. It says, something exciting is about to happen. Move toward it. That little rush is what pushes you into action. In ancient times, dopamine kept our ancestors alive. It motivated them to hunt, gather and explore. Today that same system drives us to chase likes, money, recognition, or novelty. But here's the paradox. Dopamine is less about reward and more about seeking. Once you get what you want, dopamine quickly drops. That's why satisfaction fades so fast. The high of wanting is chemically stronger than the joy of having. Modern life has hacked this system. Social media, fast food, short-form videos. They all deliver micro hits of dopamine with little effort. Your brain, being efficient, learns to crave these easy rewards instead of the deeper, more sustainable ones, like discipline, growth, or meaningful work. Over time, this creates what neuroscientists call reward prediction error. Your brain starts expecting constant stimulation. When life slows down, it feels empty. You scroll, snack, or shop, Not because you want to, but because your brain is desperate to maintain that chemical rhythm. But mastery begins with awareness. When you learn to regulate dopamine instead of letting it regulate you, you reclaim control. You can train your brain to find reward not just in achievement but in progress, in effort itself. Practical tip. Occur. Replace instant gratification with delayed reward loops. Set goals that require effort and track the progress daily. This tells your brain that progress equals pleasure. Dopamine follows direction. Give it purpose, and you transform craving into momentum. Serotonin, the calm architect of stability. If dopamine is the spark that gets you moving, serotonin is the stabilizer that keeps you balanced. It regulates mood, confidence, patience and impulse control. When serotonin levels are high, you feel calm, grounded and capable of thinking long term. When they drop, your world can feel uncertain, foggy and reactive. Serotonin acts like a gentle governor over your emotional impulses. It gives you the power to pause before reacting, to think instead of lash out, to wait instead of rush, to trust instead of panic. In decision making, serotonin helps you consider consequences. It's the chemical of wisdom. Imagine two scenarios. You're angry and tempted to send a harsh text. Low serotonin means you hit send instantly. High serotonin allows a pause, a breath, and that pause can save your relationship, your job, or your peace. Serotonin is also deeply tied to gratitude and respect. When you feel appreciated or appreciated others, serotonin levels rise. That's why acts of kindness or recognition often leave a lingering warmth. It's not sentiment, it's neurochemistry. Low serotonin can come from poor sleep, lack of sunlight, constant stress, or social disconnection. That's why walking in nature, morning light, exercise, and genuine connection are powerful natural antidepressants. They aren't luxuries, they are serotonin activators. Practical tip: keep a small gratitude journal. It raises serotonin activity by reinforcing appreciation and perspective. Avoid decision making when you're tired, hungry, or angry. Serotonin dips make impulsivity stronger. Oxytocin, the chemical of trust and connection. Every decision you make about people, who to trust, who to follow, who to love, is deeply influenced by oxytocin, the bonding hormone. When oxytocin flows, you feel connected, safe and open. It's released through touch, empathy, kindness and meaningful communication. From a neuroscience perspective, oxytocin reduces fear responses in the amygdala and increases social memory, meaning you remember people and moments that made you feel loved or safe. That's why strong teams, healthy families and supportive friendships have a measurable effect on cognitive function and even longevity. But oxytocin has a dual edge. It can also make you overly trusting. High oxytocin without discernment can blind you to manipulation or unhealthy attachment. In relationships or business, this can lead to poor judgment, trusting charm over character, promises over patterns. True mastery comes from balancing oxytocin with logic. Empathy must walk hand in hand with awareness. Practical tip: Becker, strengthen oxytocin through meaningful connection, not shallow approval. Listen actively, make eye contact, express appreciation. These small actions reinforce trust circuits in the brain. Use oxytocin's bonding power consciously. Choose people and environments that elevate your growth, not drain it. ADENE, the symphony of neurochemistry. These three neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin and oxytocin, don't work in isolation. They interact like instruments in an orchestra. When balanced, they produce clarity, focus and calm confidence. When unbalanced, they create chaos, mood swings, procrastination, addiction, indecision, or burnout. For example, too much dopamine with too little serotonin impulsive risk-taking and instant gratification, too much serotonin with too little dopamine, apathy and lack of motivation, oxytocin without dopamine, connection without ambition, dopamine without oxytocin, drive without empathy, success without meaning. Your task as a conscious human being isn't to silence these chemicals, but to conduct them. You are both the instrument and the conductor. Reclaiming chemical control. Here's how you can start rebalancing your brain's chemistry. Intentionally. Mindful dopamine fasting. Spend at least 1 hour a day with no stimulation. No phone, no music, no scrolling. Let your brain's reward system reset. This enhances focus and makes real rewards feel richer. Movement and breath. Exercise boosts both dopamine and serotonin. Deep breathing and cold exposure increase dopamine receptor sensitivity, giving you more motivation, with less stimulation. Connection before consumption. Build human connection before chasing external validation. The warmth of oxytocin will satisfy what dopamine only promises. Reflection. Rituals. Before major decisions, pause to ask, is this a chemical craving or a conscious choice? Often you'll find your desires are just brain patterns seeking a fix. Awareness ends their power. As the path to me, the path of chemical mastery. When you realize that your emotions, impulses and cravings are not your identity but signals, you become the scientist of your own mind. You stop fighting your brain and start partnering with it. You no longer punish yourself for procrastination or overthinking. Instead, you trace it to its source and rewire it with compassion. You begin to understand that motivation isn't magic, it's chemistry. Happiness isn't luck, it's balance. Success isn't willpower, it's alignment. Every choice you make either strengthens or weakens this internal harmony, and the more you align your habits, your rest, your focus and your environment with your brain's biology, the more effortless mastery becomes. Because at the end of the day, you are not your impulses, you are the one who observes them. And once you understand the chemistry that drives your choices, you can finally choose with clarity. Chapter 3. The prefrontal cortex. Your inner CEO. If your brain were a company, the prefrontal cortex, PFC, would be the CEO, the one who makes the final call. It sits at the very front of your brain, just behind your forehead, and it's the region that allows you to pause before acting, to reflect before reacting, and to plan before executing. But here's the truth. Most people rarely let their inner CEO lead. They let the emotional departments, the limbic system, and amygdala run the company instead. And as a result, they live in reaction, not intention. When you master your prefrontal cortex, you gain the ability to lead your own mind. You stop being a passenger to impulse and become the driver of your destiny. The role of your inner CEO. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for executive functions, the brain's version of high-level management. These include tactical planning, mapping the path between where you are and where you want to be; decision-making, weighing short-term desires against long-term outcomes; impulse control, resisting the pull of emotional or chemical urges; focus and attention, filtering distractions and holding complex goals in mind; goal management, prioritizing actions that serve your larger vision. Every great leader, of companies, movements, or their own lives, has a strong prefrontal cortex in action. It is the part of you that says, I know what I want, but I'll wait. I'll do what matters now, not what feels easy. That's mental leadership, and it's built through deliberate effort. The battle between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. Imagine two voices inside your head. One is rational, calm, strategic. This is your prefrontal cortex. The other is emotional, impulsive, and urgent. That's your limbic system, led by the amygdala. Every moment of your life, these two systems are negotiating. When you feel triggered, Your amygdala fires instantly. React now. Your prefrontal cortex takes longer. It says, wait, let's think this through. The problem is, in modern life, we live in constant stimulation, notifications, stress, caffeine, deadlines. They keep your limbic system on high alert. This weakens your prefrontal control. It's why small frustrations make you snap, why you check your phone impulsively, or why you procrastinate on important goals. But here's the empowering part. Neuroscience proves that you can strengthen your prefrontal cortex. Like a muscle, you can literally rewire your brain for focus, patience, and self-command. The science of strengthening self-control. Every time you resist an urge to scroll, to interrupt, to procrastinate, you activate your prefrontal cortex. Every time you set a goal, break it down, and follow through, you build new neural circuits of discipline. Your PFC grows stronger through repetition and resistance. Just as a muscle grows when you lift progressively heavier weights, your prefrontal control grows when you face temptation and choose awareness instead of autopilot. Simple neuroscience-backed practices that build your PFC. Mindful delay. When you want to react, pause for 5 seconds. Name what you feel. That moment of reflection activates the PFC and inhibits the amygdala. Focused work blocks. Deep work sessions. 30-90 minutes. Increase prefrontal activity and boost your brain's capacity for sustained attention. Goal visualization. When you imagine your future self succeeding, your PFC lights up. It loves long-term thinking. Feed it regularly with vision. Each small act of self-regulation is a neural workout. Over time, your PFC becomes dominant, and you stop needing willpower to make wise decisions. It becomes your nature. The future self-connection. The most powerful function of your prefrontal cortex is its ability to project into the future. Unlike any other animal, you can imagine your future self, what they'll feel, what they'll own, what they'll regret, what they'll celebrate. But there's a catch. Your brain often treats your future self as a stranger. Studies show that when people think about their future selves, the brain activity in their PFC mirrors how it responds when thinking about someone else. That's why you sometimes neglect long-term goals, saving money, staying fit, building discipline, because emotionally, you don't fully identify with that future you. To change your life, you must build a relationship with your future self. Treat them like someone you love and respect. Ask daily, what would my future self thank me for? What small act today will save them pain tomorrow? This simple reflection aligns your present decisions with your future outcomes, and that is the foundation of mastery. Training your prefrontal cortex daily. Here's how to train your inner CEO to stay in charge. Douge. Morning planning ritual. Before you touch your phone, write your top 3 priorities for the day. This signals to your PFC, I'm in control of the day, not the day of me. It's a 5-minute ritual that can reprogram your sense of agency. Single tasking practice. Multitasking shatters PFC focus. Every time you jump between tasks, your brain burns glucose, weakening decision power. Practice single tasking, one deep focus session at a time. Over time, your brain becomes more efficient, calm, and decisive. Digital boundaries. Notifications hijack your PFC's attention systems. Set focus zones where you silence inputs. This gives your CEO the space to think clearly and strategically. Physical discipline. Exercise boosts blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, increasing alertness and control. The discipline of the body becomes the discipline of the mind. Mindful reflection at night. Before bed, review your day. What decisions aligned with your higher self? Which were emotional or impulsive? This nightly audit strengthens self-awareness. the PFC's core skill. When the CEO goes offline, there are moments when your prefrontal cortex temporarily shuts down. In extreme stress, fear, or fatigue. This is called amygdala hijack. Your emotional brain takes over, and rational thought collapses. You say things you regret, make rash decisions, or freeze under pressure, not because you're weak, but because your brain literally shifted control. To prevent this, train your body to signal safety. Slow breathing, grounding exercises, and mindfulness all calm the amygdala, allowing your PFC to come back online. The calm mind always makes the best decision. Your PFC and limbic system were never meant to compete. They were designed to collaborate. Emotion provides meaning and energy. Logic provides structure and direction. Together they form wisdom. When your prefrontal cortex leads with compassion, not repression, you become unshakably centered. You can feel deeply without being consumed. You can act decisively without being reckless. That is the essence of emotional intelligence and self-leadership. Final thought. Leading your mind. You were born with one of the most advanced pieces of biological technology in the universe. The human prefrontal cortex. It's your built-in executive command center. But it only serves you if you learn to activate it consciously. Every moment you delay gratification, think long-term, breathe before reacting, or choose effort over ease, you're strengthening your leadership wiring. Because your life's success doesn't depend on what happens to you, it depends on who's in charge inside you. When your inner CEO leads, chaos becomes clarity, distraction becomes direction, and decision-making becomes a skill, not a gamble. Chapter 4. Emotional pathways. Friend or foe. You've heard the advice 1,000 times. Don't let emotions control you. But that's not quite right. The truth is, you can't remove emotion from decision-making. Every thought, every impulse, every choice is infused with emotion. Because emotion isn't your enemy. It's your brain's signal system. It tells you what matters, what feels rewarding, what feels dangerous, and what feels meaningful. Without emotion, you wouldn't be motivated to do anything at all. Yet here's the paradox. The same emotional power that fuels your motivation can also hijack your logic. It can turn a small setback into a spiral, a short delay into self-doubt, and a single rejection into total paralysis. So the question isn't how do I stop feeling, it's how do I interpret and manage my emotions intelligently. This chapter will help you master that balance, to feel deeply without being driven blindly. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system. At the core of your emotional brain sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Its main job, to keep you alive. When your amygdala senses threat, whether real or imagined, it fires instantly. It floods your body with stress hormones, speeds up your heart rate, and sharpens your senses. It's the reason you flinch before you think. This is great if a snake jumps out at you. Not so great when an email criticizes your work or when your boss looks disappointed. Your amygdala doesn't distinguish between physical danger and emotional discomfort. It reacts the same way. That's why anxiety, anger, and fear can feel so intense even when you're sitting safely in your chair. When the amygdala fires too often, it hijacks your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes logical, long-term decisions. You act impulsively, say things you regret, or withdraw entirely. That's called emotional hijacking, and it's one of the biggest obstacles to success. Emotions are not the problem. Mismanagement is. Let's get something clear. Emotions are not the problem. They're data, information. Every emotion you feel is a message from your brain's internal radar, trying to help you survive or thrive. Fear says, pay attention. Something feels uncertain. Anger says, your boundaries may have been crossed. And sadness says, Something valuable to you is missing. When you suppress emotions, you lose access to this intelligence. When you let emotions control you, you become reactionary. The secret is to listen without obeying, to observe what your emotions are signaling, then decide consciously how to respond. The emotional logical tug of war. Think of your emotional brain and your rational brain as two sides of a scale. When one side dominates, the other weakens. When emotion dominates, you react instantly. You send that angry text, make a rushed purchase, or abandon a long-term goal. When logic dominates completely, you lose empathy and intuition. Decisions become cold and detached, often missing the human element. The art of decision-making mastery lies in integration, emotion, and reason working together. Your amygdala says, something feels off. Your prefrontal cortex replies, let's analyze that feeling before acting. Together they produce wisdom. Neuroscientists call this top-down regulation. When your prefrontal cortex takes control of emotional signals from the amygdala, this process literally rewires your brain, creating new neural pathways for calm thinking under stress. Here's how you train it. Name the feeling. The moment you label an emotion, I feel anxious, I feel frustrated, your brain's amygdala activity drops. Studies show that naming feelings shifts brain activity from the emotional centers to the rational PFs. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. In that room, pause before reaction. The space between emotion and response is where freedom lives. Even a 5-second pause gives your brain time to shift control from emotion to logic. Reframe the meaning. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Anxiety may be a signal that you care deeply about something important. Anger may reveal that you value fairness and respect. Reframing turns emotion into insight. Breathe with intention. Deep breathing signals safety to your nervous system. When your body calms, your brain follows, allowing your PFC to regain control. Emotional intelligence. The hidden superpower. Emotional intelligence. EQ is not just a soft skill. It's a neural strategy for mastery. EQ means understanding why you feel them, managing them to serve your values and goals, reading others' emotions to communicate and influence effectively. People with high EQ aren't emotionless. They're emotionally fluent. They don't drown in their feelings. They surf them. High EQ is what allows great leaders to stay calm under pressure, to empathize without being manipulated, and to make decisions that align with their purpose, not their panic. The emotional feedback loop. Here's something profound. Every time you react emotionally and regret it later, your brain learns that pattern. But every time you catch yourself, pause and choose a better response, your brain rewires. That's neuroplasticity in real time. You're literally sculpting your emotional circuitry. The next time your amygdala fires, the signal to your prefrontal cortex travels faster. Your emotional recovery time shortens. Your self-control strengthens. What once triggered you for days may not bother you for more than a minute. That's not luck. That's emotional training. Plus, turning emotions into decision-making tools. When you learn to read your emotions instead of resisting them, they become incredible sources of wisdom. Intuition. That gut feeling that something's off. Is your brain processing complex data faster than your conscious mind can explain? Curiosity. An emotional drive is what pushes innovation, learning and creative. Empathy. Understanding another's emotion makes you persuasive, influential and connected. The goal isn't to be unemotional, it's to become emotionally intelligent enough to act intentionally. Act intentionally. Intentionally. And intentionally. One panics, freezes and spirals into fear. The other feels the same fear, but pauses, breathes and says, okay, let's focus on what I can control. What's the difference? Emotional regulation. The second person's prefrontal cortex stayed online long enough to turn fear into strategy. Resilience isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to recover quickly and act wisely. The path to emotional mastery. To master emotion is to master energy. Emotions are the energy and motion that fuel your life. When you control that energy, you control the quality of your actions, relationships and destiny. Here's a simple practice. When you feel overwhelmed, don't resist it. Witness it. When you feel triggered, breathe before reacting. Own. When you feel inspired, act before doubt creeps in. Use it. Emotion, when understood, becomes guidance. When ignored, it becomes chaos. When mastered, it becomes power. Final reflection. The brain is not divided into logic versus emotion. It's logic guided by emotion. When you stop fighting your feelings and start understanding them, your decision-making evolves. Every emotion becomes data. Every trigger becomes training. Every reaction becomes awareness. You stop fearing your emotions and start leading them. That's the bridge between reactivity and mastery. And that bridge is built inside your brain, one conscious decision at a time. Chapter 5. Rewiring your brain for intentional choices. Every habit you repeat, every thought you entertain, every emotion you indulge, shapes the physical structure of your brain. This is not poetic metaphor, it's neuroscience. Your brain is not a static organ, it's a living, changing network of billions of neurons, firing, connecting, strengthening and pruning pathways every single second. And here's the revelation that changes everything. You are not a prisoner of your brain. You are the sculptor of it. If your brain is the hardware, your daily thoughts and behaviors are the software. You can rewrite the code. You can upgrade the system. This chapter will show you how. The science of neuroplasticity. For centuries, scientists believed the adult brain was fixed. That by the time you reached adulthood, your mental wiring was permanent. Then groundbreaking research overturned that belief. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, proved that you can grow new neurons, forge new connections, and erase old patterns at any age. When you practice a new thought or behavior repeatedly, neurons fire together, and they begin to wire together. That's Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. But here's the part most people miss. The same rule applies in reverse. When you stop activating certain pathways, when you stop feeding fear, procrastination, or self-doubt, those circuits weaken and die. You're not just forming habits. You're physically reshaping your brain. The brain's three-part operating system. To rewire your brain for mastery, you must understand its three key systems that shape your decisions: the seat of discipline, willpower, and intentional thinking. When this is active, you choose consciously, not impulsively. The limbic system, the emotional core, powers, the amygdala, and hippocampus, regulates emotions, motivation and memory. It's fast, emotional and instinctive. The basal ganglia, the habit machine, power, stores repeated patterns, good or bad. But once something becomes a habit, this region takes over. It saves mental energy, but resists change. Until reprogrammed, the secret is learning how to train these systems to work together. When your emotional brain aligns with your logical brain, and your habits follow both, you become unstoppable, breaking old neural loops. Think about your brain like a forest. Every time you think a thought, it's like walking a path. The more you walk it, the clearer and smoother it becomes. Eventually, your brain takes that route automatically, even if it leads nowhere good. So if you often think, I always mess things up. I'm not good enough. It's too late to change. Those aren't just beliefs. They're neural highways paved with repetition. To change them, you must starve the old path and carve a new one. Step 1. Awareness. Notice when an old mental loop activates. Catch it in the act. Don't fight it. Just observe it. Step 2. Interruption. Interrupt it with a new thought. Even something simple like that's an old pattern. I'm choosing differently now. This moment of awareness shifts activation from the limbic system to the prefrontal cortex, instantly weakening the old circuit. Step 3. Replacement. Feed your brain a new pattern. A thought aligned with who you want to become. Example. Old pattern. I'm too lazy. New pattern. I'm learning to take consistent action. Each repetition of the new thought is a stroke in the sculpture of your brain. Neurochemical control, dopamine and decision-making. Dopamine is often misunderstood. People think it's the pleasure chemical. It's not. It's the motivation molecule. Dopamine spikes not when you achieve something, but when you anticipate it. That's why scrolling social media feels addictive. It hijacks your dopamine system. But you can use this mechanism for your advantage, to rewire your brain for intentional choices. Set clear micro goals. Each small win releases dopamine. Celebrate progress, not perfection. The brain repeats what feels rewarding. Delay gratification. Intentionally. Teach your brain that focus and patience bring bigger dopamine payoffs. When you control dopamine, you control your drive. The power of conscious focus. Attention is currency. Where you direct your focus, your brain invests its resources. If you constantly focus on fear, stress and lack, you train your brain to seek more of it. If you focus on growth, solutions and gratitude, your brain rewires for optimism and opportunity. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman calls this self-directed neuroplasticity. Your focus acts like a sculptor's chisel, carving new neural shapes. So ask yourself daily, what do I want my brain to get better at? Because whatever you repeatedly focus on, you become. Visualization. The brain's secret rehearsal room. The brain doesn't distinguish strongly between real experience and vivid imagination. When you visualize success, not just see it, but feel it, your brain activates the same neural circuits as if you had actually lived it. That's why elite athletes, entrepreneurs and performers rehearse mentally before executing physically. They're literally pre-wiring their brains for victory. Here's how to do it effectively. By taking fear. Find a quiet space. Then you as the moment of action. See yourself calm, focused and powerful. Add sensory detail. What do you see, hear, feel? End with emotion. Feel the pride, calm, and confidence as if it's already done. That emotion is what cements the neural connection. Your brain says, this is real. Let's make it a pattern. The identity shift. Becoming who you choose to be. You can't sustain change if it conflicts with your identity. If you keep saying I'm trying to be disciplined, your brain hears, I'm not disciplined yet. Identity always wins over effort. Neuroscience shows that identity-based change, aligning your self-image with your desired behavior, produces far stronger neural commitment. Instead of saying, I'm trying to eat healthy, becomes, I'm someone who honors my body. I'm trying to focus becomes, I'm a master of attention. You don't fake it. You install it. And repetition locks it in. Every time you act in alignment with that identity, the brain reinforces it. That's how you become the person you intend to be. Not by force, but by design. Reprogramming through repetition. Neural change doesn't happen instantly. It happens through consistency. Your brain learns through repetition, reward, and emotion. Each time you repeat a new pattern, with feeling, it strengthens synaptic connections. After weeks of consistent input, old patterns weaken, and the new ones dominate. Think of it like muscle growth. The gym is your daily thought practice. The reps are your choices. The growth is invisible until it's undeniable. The key is emotional intensity. If you repeat an affirmation mechanically, it won't stick. But if you say it with emotion, belief, and visualization, your brain records it as truth. The calm mind, your rewiring accelerator. Meditation isn't about spirituality alone. It's a neural optimization practice. Studies using fMRI scans show that regular meditation, the amygdala reducing fear, reactivity, thickens the prefrontal cortex, boosting focus and decision-making, strengthens the insula, enhancing self-awareness. In simple terms, meditation trains your brain to pause before reacting. It's like upgrading your brain's operating system for clarity and calm control. Start simple. Aim 5 minutes daily. Focus on breath. Observe thoughts, like clouds passing by. Every session strengthens your ability to remain conscious under pressure. The formula for neural mastery. Let's put it all together. Awareness. Notice your automatic reactions. Interruption. Pause before acting. A replacement. Choose a thought or behavior aligned with your higher self. Repetition. Reinforce daily with focus and emotion. Reward. Feel the satisfaction of growth. This locks it in. Repeat this cycle daily, and in 90 days your brain's dominant pathways begin to change. In 6 months your emotional triggers weaken. In 1 year, your decisions, habits, and outcomes reflect a completely different version of you. Diak. You are the architect. You were not born with a fixed mindset or a broken brain. You were born with a programmable system, capable of infinite upgrade. The question is, every time you take ownership, you reinforce strength. Every choice is a neural vote for who you become. You don't have to fight your old self. You simply outgrow it. You train your brain to make excellence your default state. Final reflection. Rewiring your brain is not a miracle. It's biology. You are not stuck. You are adapting. Each morning you wake up, you have the power to choose new thoughts, new emotions, and new actions. Each of those choices carves new neural reality. The brain doesn't care what you believe. It simply builds what you practice. So practice clarity, practice confidence, practice calm. Because in time, what you practice becomes who you are. That's not motivation. That's neuroscience. Chapter 6. Cognitive biases. The hidden traps of the mind. Your brain is powerful, but it's also lazy. It's constantly seeking shortcuts to make sense of the world faster, to conserve energy, to keep you safe, to help you survive. These shortcuts, though useful in a primitive environment, can quietly sabotage your goals in the modern world. Every decision you make, from relationships to business to health, passes through a filter of biases. You think you're being rational, but more often than not you're being predictable. This chapter is about unmasking the illusions that secretly steer your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and learning how to override them with conscious mastery. The invisible puppet strings of the mind. Imagine standing in front of 2 identical job offers. One pays slightly more, but the office is further away. You weigh the pros and cons, or so you think. In truth, your brain already made the decision milliseconds before you rationalized it. Your conscious mind is often just the spokesperson, not the CEO. That's the shocking part of neuroscience. Most of your decisions are emotional impulses post-justified by logic. Why? Because your brain runs on heuristics, mental shortcuts developed over thousands of years, to avoid threats and secure rewards. Back in the wild they kept us alive. Today they can keep us stuck. Bias in 1. The confirmation trap. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you believe it to be. Once you adopt a belief, your brain filters out anything that contradicts it. This is confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful distortions in human psychology. If you believe people can't be trusted, your brain will highlight every betrayal and overlook every act of kindness. If you believe money is evil, you'll unconsciously avoid opportunities that could make you wealthy. Your brain is not objective. It's a loyal servant of your dominant story. How to break it? Tap. Question your conclusions. When you think you're right, ask, what if I'm not? Seek disconfirming evidence. Read or listen to perspectives that challenge you. You're not your opinions, you're the awareness behind them. When you stop defending your old ideas, your brain becomes a learning machine again. That's why news stories about plane crashes make you fear flying, even though driving is statistically far more dangerous. This bias tricks you into thinking rare events are common, simply because they're emotionally vivid. In the modern digital age, this is amplified by algorithms, feeding you the same emotional content over and over, creating a distorted sense of reality. How to fix it? Tap. Pause before reacting emotionally to information. Balance your inputs. For every negative story you consume, seek one that shows progress, growth, or success. Your perception becomes your world. Curate it wisely. Pabslian bias and 3. The anchoring effect. Let's say someone offers to sell you a watch for $5. You hesitate, then they offer a discount. $2,005. Now it feels like a deal. That's anchoring bias, the tendency for the first piece of information you encounter to set a mental reference point, even if it's arbitrary. It shapes negotiations, pricing, self-worth, even relationship. If your first partner treated you poorly, you may unconsciously anchor your expectations for all future relationships to that level of behavior. To counter it, tap. Re-anchor with truth. Don't let others define your standards. Perhaps compared to what? Reset expectations by exposing yourself to higher examples, better mentors, environments, and standards. You can anchor your brain upward. Tap. Bias in 4. The status quo trap. Your brain loves what's familiar, even if it's painful. It's called status quo bias, the subconscious resistance to change, even when the new option is better. That's why people stay in unfulfilling jobs, toxic relationships, or unhealthy habits. The brain equates familiar with safe, but comfort zones are deceptive. They feel secure but slowly suffocate growth. Neuroscience shows that uncertainty activates the amygdala, triggering fear responses that push you back into routine. To override it, tap. Expect fear as a normal response to growth. Don't interpret it as a stop sign. See it as a compass. Take micro risks daily. Small, controlled discomfort rewires your brain to feel safe in the unknown. Visualize your future self thriving in change. This conditions your emotional brain to associate growth with safety, not danger. Remember, evolution happens outside the comfort zone, never inside it. Pabslian bias. Tap. 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 Pabsave. The self-serving bias. When things go well, we credit ourselves. When they go wrong, we blame circumstances. It's a bias built to protect self-esteem, but it also prevents growth. If you always see yourself as the hero, you never identify the habits, blind spots, or behaviors that need transformation. Break it by practicing radical accountability. Instead of asking who's at fault, ask what's within my control. Seeking honest feedback, especially from those unafraid to challenge you. Tap. Celebrating both success and failure as data for improvement. The moment you stop defending your ego, your brain opens to evolution. Pabslian bias in 6. The sunk cost fallacy. Imagine you've invested years in a project, job or relationship that's not working. You know it's draining you, but you keep going because you've already put so much in. That's the sunk cost fallacy, mistaking past investment for future obligation. Your emotional brain hates to admit waste, so it traps you in commitments that no longer serve your growth. Escape it by recognizing that time spent is not time owed. Asking, if I hadn't started this yet, would I still start today? By detaching identity from effort, you can leave without losing yourself. True mastery isn't holding on, it's knowing when to let go. By tap. In prehistoric times, rejection from the tribe meant death. Today, that same instinct makes you crave validation, likes, approval, social proof. That's the bandwagon effect, conforming to group behavior to avoid standing out. It feels safer, but it kills originality. The greatest thinkers, leaders and creators in history all broke from the crowd. They faced ridicule before recognition. They trusted their internal compass over external applause. To strengthen your independence, make decisions privately first, then share them. By reward authenticity over approval. Each time you choose your truth, you rewire confidence. You weren't born to blend in, you were born to lead your own mind. The meta bias. Thinking you have none. The most dangerous bias of all is believing you're unbiased. The moment you think you see clearly, your brain relaxes, and your filters take control again. Humility keeps you mentally sharp. Arrogance blinds you. So remain a student of your mind. Question your perceptions daily. Ask, what might I be missing? Awareness is the antidote. Because once you see the strings, you're no longer the puppet. Integrating bias awareness into daily life. Here's how to train cognitive clarity into habit. Pause before major decision. Ask, what emotion is influencing me right now? Audit your thoughts. Each night write down 3 key decisions you made, and what bias might have guided them. Seek opposing views. Not to argue, but to expand your map of reality. Detach ego from correctness. You're not your conclusions, your consciousness itself. Over time, this practice rewires your prefrontal cortex, strengthening objectivity, patience, and awareness. Cognitive final reflection. Your biases are not flaws, they're features of an ancient system designed to keep you alive. But survival is no longer the goal. Mastery is, and mastery requires evolution. It demands that you step out of the fog of automatic thinking, and into the clear light of awareness. The modern warrior is not one who conquers others, but one who conquers their own cognitive illusion. So the next time you make a decision, pause. Ask yourself, is this me deciding, or my programming? Because awareness is the first step toward liberation. And liberation begins when the mind becomes your ally, not your master. Chapter 7. Emotional Intelligence. The silent power behind every great decision. For centuries, people have believed that intelligence was purely logical, that the smartest minds were the ones who could memorize, calculate and reason faster than others. But neuroscience has shattered that illusion. It's not IQ that determines how far you go in life. It's EQ, emotional intelligence. EQ is the bridge between thought and action, logic and intuition, brain and heart. It's what separates those who react from those who respond. It's the difference between chaos and control, burnout and balance, impulsive decisions, and legendary leadership. If you can understand, regulate and leverage your emotions, you can master not only your decisions, but your destiny. The emotional brain, the original operating system. Long before the prefrontal cortex evolved, the emotional brain, the limbic system, was already running the show. It decided who to trust, what to fear, when to fight and when to flee. Every signal your rational brain sends is filtered through this ancient emotional gatekeeper. That means even your logical decisions start as emotional impulses. Your amygdala reacts to emotional stimuli within 80 milliseconds, far faster than your conscious awareness. That's why you might lash out, panic, or withdraw before your reasoning mind catches up. In today's world, we no longer face predators in the wild. We face deadlines, criticism, rejection, social comparison, and an uncertainty, all triggering the same primal emotional circuitry. Understanding this ancient wiring is the first step toward mastering it. The two systems that rule you. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky describe two modes of thinking that govern every human mind. It helps you make snap judgments, but it can also mislead you when stakes are high. System 2, slow, deliberate, logical. It analyzes, plans, and weighs consequences. It's the seat of conscious decision-making, but it's also lazy and easily overpowered by emotion. The true master isn't someone who eliminates emotion. It's someone who trains emotion and logic to work together. When your emotional brain and rational brain are in harmony, your decisions become effortless, aligned, and powerful. Step 1. Emotional awareness. Naming the storm. You can't control what you can't identify. Most people live unaware of what they're truly feeling, labeling everything as stress or tiredness. But neuroscience shows that simply naming an emotion, anger, fear, shame, excitement, reduces its intensity by up to 50%. Why? Because naming recruits your prefrontal cortex, pulling emotional energy out of the limbic system and into the realm of conscious control. It's like turning the lights on in a dark room. Practice this. But tatting the lights on in a dark room. Practice this. But tatty. When emotions surge, pause. Fear might whisper, "You're about to grow." Every emotion is data, not danger. Step 2. Regulation. Steering, not suppressing. Emotional control isn't about suppression. It's about redirection. Suppression buries emotions alive. Regulation transforms them into energy. Think of your emotions as currents in a river. You can't stop the flow, but you can guide it. Regulation techniques that work with the brain's biology include deep, rhythmic breathing. Slows amygdala reactivity and activates the parasympathetic calm system. Cognitive reframing. Ask, what else could this mean? And shift emotional interpretation. Physical grounding. Move your body. Emotion literally means energy in motion. Elite performers, athletes, surgeons, special forces use these techniques daily, not to erase fear, but to perform under its pressure. Step 3. Emotional responsibility. You are the source. Blaming others for how you feel keeps you powerless. Owning your emotions gives you control. When you say, "You made me angry," you give away your authority. When you say, "I felt anger when that happened," you reclaim it. This simple linguistic shift rewires emotional accountability. It tells your brain, "I am in charge of my reaction." True emotional mastery begins the moment you stop reacting to the world and start responding to it intentionally. Daptate. Step 4. Emotional empathy. The hidden superpower. Most people underestimate empathy. They think it's weakness. But empathy is a strategic weapon when used consciously. The ability to read emotional cues in others, tone, micro-expressions, energy shifts, gives you insight no dataset can match. Empathy allows you to anticipate reactions, diffuse conflicts, and influence outcomes with precision. Leaders who lack empathy create compliance. Leaders who practice empathy create loyalty. To strengthen empathy, daptate. Listen beyond words. Notice tone and energy, more than language. Mirror without mimicking. Match emotional states to build subconscious rapport. Ask better questions. Instead of "Why did you do that?" try "What were you feeling when that happened?" Empathy is emotional intelligence turned outward. The foundation of trust, persuasion, and collaboration. When they align, it enters flow. A state of effortless performance where focus, creativity and intuition fuse. Flow happens when your challenge level matches your skill level. You have clear goals and immediate feedback. Your emotional energy is engaged, not resisted. This is why emotionally intelligent people often appear lucky. They're not lucky. They're alive. They move with their inner current, not against it. To live in flow is to live in mastery. Step 6. Building emotional resilience. The bounce back factor. Life will test your emotional foundation again and again. Rejection, failure, betrayal. These are not signs of weakness. They are the weights that strengthen your emotional muscle. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about bouncing back stronger every time you do. Neuroscience shows that emotionally resilient individuals have greater connectivity between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, meaning their logical brain recovers faster from emotional shock. You can train this resilience by reframing adversity as training, not punishment. Practicing gratitude under pressure. It rewires emotional circuits toward stability. This is where recovery. The brain can simulate success and build neural pathways before it happens. The more you bounce back, the less anything can break you. Tip this. Step 7. Emotional intelligence in decision making. Every major decision has an emotional signature. The most successful people don't ignore their emotions. They decode them. When your gut says no, it's not irrational. It's your subconscious recognizing a threat pattern faster than your conscious mind can explain. When excitement and fear coexist, that's usually the sign of growth. Emotionally intelligent decision-making is about feeling fully, thinking clearly, and acting consciously. Ask yourself before every big choice, by health, what emotion is driving this? Is it fear or alignment? If I felt calm and confident, would I still choose this? That last question alone can change your life. Step 8. The emotionally intelligent mindset. The emotionally intelligent person sees every moment as feedback. Instead of judging emotions, they observe them. Instead of resisting change, they flow with it. Instead of fearing failure, they learn from it. They move through life with calm awareness, responsive, not reactive. They've learned that mastering emotion isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Every feeling is a message. Every reaction a mirror. Every surge of energy an opportunity for mastery. When logic alone fails, emotion provides direction. When emotion overwhelms, logic provides grounding. Together, they form the perfect symphony of decision-making and life mastery. Control the harmony between your heart and your mind, and the world bends quietly to your rhythm. Chapter 8. The Science of Self-Discipline. How to train your brain to follow through. There's a reason most people start strong but finish weak. They think motivation will carry them through. It won't. Motivation is a spark, discipline is the engine. One burns out quickly, the other carries you across the finish line. Every great athlete, thinker or entrepreneur you admire isn't necessarily more talented than you. They're simply more trained in the art of self-discipline. They've learned to command the mind when it wants to quit, to act even when it doesn't feel like it, and to repeat small wins until they become destiny. Let's break down the real science of how discipline works, and how you can rewire your brain to live by it effortlessly. The truth about discipline. Discipline isn't punishment, it's precision. It's the deliberate act of aligning behavior with long-term values, instead of short-term impulses. Every time you choose progress over pleasure, your brain rewires itself. Neurons that fire together, wire together. That's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reprogram itself through repetition. Each disciplined act strengthens a mental circuit that says, I keep my word. I finish what I start. I am in control. At first, discipline feels like resistance. Over time, it becomes identity. When you are the type of person who does what needs to be done, it's no longer hard. It's who you are. The brain's reward system. Friend or foe, your brain runs on dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, focus and anticipation. But dopamine is not a reward chemical, it's a seeking chemical. It drives you to pursue, chase and act. The problem is, most people spend their dopamine on distractions, social media, notifications, junk food, novelty. Each quick hit trains the brain to crave immediate gratification. Discipline requires delayed gratification, saving dopamine for long-term payoffs. When you withhold small pleasures for larger goals, dopamine doesn't disappear, it compounds. That's how you build the stamina to focus on deep work, delayed results, and long-term mastery. You don't need to kill dopamine, you need to redirect it. Try this. Delay checking your phone for 1 hour each morning. Replace dopamine snacks with dopamine investments. Progress, exercise, creation, learning, reward effort, not just outcome. That's how you teach your brain that discipline feels good. D-aim. The prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your mind. Your prefrontal cortex, PFC, is the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making and impulse control. It's what separates humans from every other species, our ability to override urges. But here's the catch. The PFC fatigues easily. Stress, fatigue, anxiety and constant stimulation all weaken its function, leaving you reactive and distracted. So discipline isn't just about willpower, it's about managing brain energy. You wouldn't expect your phone to run all day without charging it. Likewise, your brain needs recovery to stay disciplined. Strengthen your PFC by meditating daily. Even 10 minutes improves focus and impulse resistance. Minimizing decisions. Automate routines. Same breakfast, same workout time. A calm, rested, organized brain is a disciplined brain. The willpower loop. How habits are formed. Every act of self-control strengthens the next. Psychologists call this the willpower feedback loop. You resist an impulse. Skip the distraction. You feel stronger. Dopamine reward. You trust yourself more. Identity solidifies. Next time, resistance feels easier. Each time you follow through, your brain rewires. I'm someone who finishes things. That's why small daily wins, waking up early, completing a workout, finishing a task, build massive inner strength. Discipline isn't built in big moments, it's forged in micro moments. The myth of motivation. People wait to feel ready. That's the biggest trap. You don't need motivation to act. You need action to generate motivation. When you move, momentum builds. When you hesitate, friction grows. Action creates energy. Inaction drains it. So instead of asking, how do I feel? Ask, what's my next small step? Your brain learns through motion, not contemplation. Even one micro action, opening the book, writing one line, sending one email, can trigger a neurochemical cascade that reignites focus. Discipline begins not with emotion, but with movement. The 2-minute rule. Beating procrastination. Instantly. Procrastination is emotion management, not time management. It's your brain avoiding discomfort, not laziness. To break it, use the 2-minute rule. Do it for just, tell yourself, I'll work for 2 minutes, then stop. 9 out of 10 times, you'll keep going. Why? Because the brain fears starting, not doing. Once the first step is taken, resistance collapses. Every great habit begins this way. Small, consistent, almost too easy to fail. Piag. The power of pain. Using discomfort as fuel. The disciplined don't avoid discomfort. They use it. They understand that pain is information, not punishment. The gym hurts because your muscles are adapting. Studying feels boring because your neurons are rewiring. Silence feels uncomfortable because your mind is detoxing from noise. Growth feels like friction. The greater the resistance, the greater the rewiring. When you learn to associate discomfort with progress, your brain flips. What once triggered avoidance now triggers action. That's how Navy SEALs, top entrepreneurs, and elite performers think. They lean into pain until it becomes power. The architecture of routine. Your environment shapes your discipline more than your willpower does. You can't expect to eat healthy if your kitchen is full of junk food. You can't focus if your phone is glowing beside you. You can't sleep early if your room is lit like a stadium. Design your surroundings for success. Build a disciplined environment. Remove friction. Block distracting apps. Tidy your workspace. Stack habits. Attach a new habit to an old one. After coffee I journal. Discipline is not about resisting temptation. It's about designing it out. Neuroplastic mastery. Training the habit brain. Your basal ganglia controls automatic behaviors. When you repeat something enough, it moves from conscious effort to subconscious routine. That's why habits feel effortless. They no longer require energy from the prefrontal cortex to hardwire discipline. They start small. 2-5 minutes. Repeat daily. You reward yourself immediately after completion. Increase intensity gradually. Within 30-60 days, your new behavior will run on autopilot. At that point, discipline becomes identity, not struggle. Tickets. The discipline identity. The most powerful shift you can make isn't behavioral. It's identity-based. Instead of saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, say, I'm a disciplined person. Your subconscious acts in alignment with identity. If you identify as someone who never quits, your behavior will fight to protect that image. You are not building discipline. You are remembering who you truly are. A focused, capable, unstoppable mind in full control of itself. The compound effect of consistency. Tiny, consistent actions compound into massive change. 1 disciplined hour per day is 365 hours per year. Over 9 full work weeks of focused mastery. That's how great minds win. Not through dramatic bursts, but through quiet persistence. Every repetition whispers to the brain, this is who I am. And one day, without noticing, the whisper becomes truth. The final truth. Discipline isn't about punishment or deprivation. It's about freedom. Freedom from chaos, from procrastination, from weakness. It's the art of becoming your own commander. It's the ultimate proof of self-respect. When you can command yourself, you can command your destiny. You are no longer a slave to moods, cravings, or circumstances. You act with purpose. You live with precision. You win with consistency. That is the science and the spirit of self-discipline. Chapter 9. Reprogramming the subconscious mind. Turning thoughts into reality. If the conscious mind is the captain of the ship, the subconscious mind is the ocean beneath it, vast, powerful, and relentless. Most people try to steer their lives by consciously deciding what they want. They set goals, make plans, and repeat affirmations. But then, weeks later, they drift back to old patterns: procrastination, fear, self-doubt. Why? Because the ocean always wins. Your subconscious beliefs, the deep, emotional programs running 24/7, always override conscious intentions. If you truly want to master your life, you must master the mind beneath the mind. This chapter is your guide to doing exactly that. Understanding the two minds, conscious versus subconscious. The conscious mind is logical, analytical, and aware. It decides, analyzes and chooses, but it's also weak, processing only about 40 bits of information per second. The subconscious mind, by contrast, processes millions of bits per second. It stores every memory, emotion, and pattern you've ever lived through. It's not logical, it's emotional, reactive, and associative. It runs your habits, your fears, your instincts, your identity. It's the silent autopilot behind 95% of your behavior. So when your conscious mind says, "I want success," but your subconscious mind whispers, "I'm not good enough," guess which one wins? Until your subconscious agrees with your conscious goals, progress will always feel like swimming upstream. From birth to age 7, your brain operates in theta state, a deep, hypnotic frequency. You absorb beliefs directly from your environment without critical thinking. You observe your parents, your culture, your school, and you form silent conclusions about yourself and the world. Money is hard to get. I'm not smart enough. Good things don't last. People like me don't succeed. Each belief becomes a command your subconscious executes faithfully. And so, even decades later, you may find yourself self-sabotaging, just to stay consistent with your original programming. Reprogramming your subconscious is not about positive thinking. It's about emotional rewiring, installing new beliefs that resonate on a deep, experiential level. It's a science of neuroplasticity and emotional memory. Every thought you repeat strengthens a neural pathway. Every emotion you feel imprints deeper than logic ever could. That's why trauma, embarrassment, or failure can shape you more powerfully than years of knowledge. The subconscious doesn't respond to information, it responds to emotion. To reprogram it, you must speak its language. Repetition, emotion, imagery. When you visualize your goals vividly and feel as if they're already true, your brain can't distinguish imagination from experience. Neurons fire in the same patterns, releasing the same chemicals, forming the same networks. This is neuroplasticity, your brain reshaping itself to fit the mental pictures you feed it. In short, what you emotionally rehearse, your subconscious accepts as reality. The power of identity. You will never rise higher than your identity. If you believe you're lazy, every attempt at productivity will fail. If you believe you're unlucky, success will always feel temporary. The subconscious does not act on what you want, it acts on what you believe you are. So the most powerful reprogramming begins with identity transformation. Instead of saying that I want to be confident, say I am confident. Instead of saying that I want to be wealthy, say I am a wealth creator. Your subconscious takes statements of identity as instructions. And once your identity changes, your behavior follows automatically. That's why you don't need to try to brush your teeth. It's part of who you are. Make discipline, focus, and success part of who you are, and you'll act accordingly, effortlessly. The reprogramming cycle. To rewire your subconscious, consistency matters more than intensity. Here's a powerful daily process. Example: I'm not good enough. So, challenge. Ask, where did I learn this? Is it absolutely true? Replace, create an empowering counter-belief. I am capable and learning fast. Emotion. Visualize moments where you proved this belief true. Feel the pride, the gratitude, the confidence. Repetition. Repeat daily, especially when calm, sleepy, or meditating. Theta state. Over time, repetition and emotion override the old pattern, and your subconscious updates its code. The hypnagogic window. When the mind is most programmable, the subconscious is most open. When brainwaves slow down, right before sleep and immediately upon waking. This is called the hypnagogic state, between wakefulness and dreams. Use these windows to install new programs. Before sleep, visualize your desired future, as if it's happening now. Feel gratitude for it as if it's already real. Upon waking, repeat affirmations that reinforce your new identity. When done daily, these micro moments create macro transformation. Affirmations that actually work. Most affirmations fail because they feel like lies. Your subconscious rejects anything that clashes too hard with your current self-image. The solution: use transitional affirmations, believable bridges between where you are and where you're going. Instead of I am rich and successful, try I am learning how to manage money wisely. Instead of I love myself completely, try I'm beginning to appreciate myself more each day. As your subconscious adjusts, you can upgrade the statement. Gradually, the bridge becomes solid ground. So end. Visualization. Mental rehearsal for reality. Your subconscious loves images. Every vision you hold repeatedly becomes a blueprint for your behavior. When athletes visualize winning, their muscles fire in the same sequences as if they were actually performing. When entrepreneurs imagine success, their brain rehearses the confidence and focus needed to achieve it. To visualize effectively, say it in first-person view through your own eyes. Feel the emotions: pride, peace, excitement. Make it vivid. Sounds, sensations, colors. Do it daily for 5 to 10. Your brain rewires to expect the outcome, and reality starts to match the expectation. Techniques like journaling, EFT, emotional freedom technique, or breathwork can help discharge trapped emotions. Forgiveness is another, not for others, but for yourself. You can't grow if your subconscious keeps replaying guilt, shame, or regret. When you forgive yourself for the past, you free your future. Say aloud, I release what no longer serves me. I choose peace over pain. I am not my past. I am my potential. Every repetition loosens another chain around your mind. Reprogramming through action. Belief alone isn't enough. The subconscious responds powerfully to evidence. Each time you act in alignment with your new identity, it reinforces the belief. If you believe you're disciplined, prove it by keeping one small promise. If you believe you're confident, speak up once more than usual. If you believe you're abundant, practice generosity. Every action is a vote for your new identity. Your subconscious updates itself based on what you do, not just what you say. During synchronization, mind and body alignment. Your body and subconscious are deeply linked. Your posture, breathing, and tone of voice all send feedback to your brain. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with intention, your subconscious interprets it as confident. That's why power poses and breath control are real tools for reprogramming. Your physiology can hack your psychology. If you want to rewire belief, embody it. Walk, speak, and breathe as your future self would. The body will teach the mind what's true, becoming the architect of reality. Once you begin reprogramming your subconscious, your life changes subtly at first. Then dramatically, you'll attract new opportunities, notice synchronicities, and act with new certainty. People around you will say, "You've changed," but in truth, you've simply become yourself again. The version that was always hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and programming. Remember, the mind is not a mirror of reality. It's a projector, creating the world you experience based on its internal film. Change the film, and the picture changes automatically. Final truth. You are the programmer. Your subconscious isn't your enemy. It's your most powerful ally. It doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It simply executes. Feed it fear, and it creates more reasons to fear. Feed it faith, and it creates more reasons to believe. You are not your past. You are not your thoughts. You are the programmer, and your life is the code you write daily. Choose your thoughts as carefully as you'd choose your future, because one day they become the same thing. Chapter 10. Mastering emotional intelligence for decision power. There is a level of mastery beyond discipline, beyond productivity, beyond mindset. It is not just about how you think, but how you feel, how you respond, and how you lead yourself through chaos. That level is called emotional intelligence, EI, and it's the missing ingredient separating those who react to life from those who shape it. If your subconscious is the operating system, then emotional intelligence is the control interface, the way you command your brain, calm your nerves, and direct your destiny. The truth about emotions: energy in motion. Emotions are not weaknesses, they are messages, signals of alignment, or resistance between your inner state and external world. When you feel anger, it's not random. It's your system saying something feels unfair. When you feel fear, your body's whispering, I sense danger, real or imagined. But here's where mastery begins. Emotion is not an order, it's information. You don't have to obey it, you have to understand it. High performers, great leaders, and self-mastered individuals all share one thing. They've learned to listen to emotions without letting emotions lead them. They pause, they breathe, they decode before they decide. That's emotional intelligence, and it's a superpower. Yonder, the neuroscience of emotional control. Every emotion you experience is a chemical storm orchestrated by your brain. It detects threats in milliseconds, faster than your conscious mind can think. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, your logical reasoning brain, acts as a brake system, deciding whether that emotional alarm is justified. The hippocampus gives context, reminding you whether that threat is actually new or just a ghost from your past. When the amygdala fires unchecked, it hijacks your system. Your heart races, your judgment collapses, and you react instead of respond. This is called an amygdala hijack, and most people live their entire lives under its control. To master your emotions, you must train your PFC, your CEO brain, to stay online. When your system floods with adrenaline, that's how you move from chaos to clarity. The power of the pause. The difference between emotionally reactive people and emotionally intelligent ones can be summarized in one word: space. Emotionally reactive people feel, react. Emotionally intelligent people feel, pause. That pause, even a single deep breath, re-engages your prefrontal cortex and restores access to logic. It's not suppression, it's strategy. The pause transforms instinct into insight. It turns survival into leadership. Next time you feel triggered, try this. DS. Breathe deeply for 6 seconds. Inhale calm, exhale reaction. Name the emotion. I feel angry, I feel afraid, or I feel rejected. Naming it pulls it from the emotional brain into language, the domain of logic. Ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Every emotion carries wisdom. Pain is information. The pause is your gateway from being ruled by emotion to ruling through emotion. The first pillar of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, the ability to observe yourself in real time. It's noticing when your energy shifts, when your tone changes, when your heartbeat accelerates. It's catching yourself mid-pattern and saying, this is my fear of rejection speaking. That awareness alone is freedom, because what you can see, you can change. What you can't see controls you. Developing self-awareness requires stillness. That's why so many powerful people meditate, not to escape reality, but to observe it without distortion. Every minute you spend in stillness trains your brain to witness rather than react. And that witness consciousness is the birthplace of emotional power. Self-regulation. Emotional discipline in action. Once you are aware of your emotions, the next skill is self-regulation. The art of managing impulses before they manage you. Self-regulation doesn't mean denial. It means direction. When you feel frustration, you can channel it into creative fuel. When you feel fear, you can convert it into alertness. When you feel sadness, you can turn it into reflection and clarity. The emotionally disciplined person doesn't suppress emotion. They transmute it. They turn raw energy into productive movement. Here's a truth only the wise understand. Empathy, the silent power of connection. Emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your emotions. It's also about recognizing and understanding others. Empathy is the skill that makes leaders magnetic, partners trustworthy, and teams unstoppable. It's the ability to sense another person's emotional state, not to fix them, but to connect with them. Your brain's mirror neurons are wired for empathy. When you observe someone in pain or joy, the same circuits light up in your mind. That's why emotion is contagious, and why great leaders control their emotional energy. They know it spreads. True empathy is listening with your heart instead of your ego. It's asking, what is this person really feeling? Instead of what should I say now? It's holding space without trying to dominate it. When empathy and authority merge, influence becomes effortless. Back decision-making. Emotion gives your decisions energy, urgency, and meaning. Logic gives them structure and direction. The mastery lies in the balance. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't say, I'll decide when I feel nothing. They say, I'll decide when I feel clearly. Emotion tells you what matters. Logic tells you how to act on it. When your heart and mind are aligned, your decisions become unstoppable, confident, compassionate, and precise. Resilience, the emotional armor of high performers. Emotional intelligence builds resilience, the ability to stay calm in chaos and rise after setbacks. Resilient people aren't unshaken because they feel nothing. They feel everything, but they don't drown in it. They see challenges as feedback, not failure. They use pain as training, not punishment. Every time life tests you emotionally, and you choose composure over chaos, your nervous system strengthens, your stress tolerance expands, your emotional threshold upgrades. You're not getting weaker under pressure. You're being forged. Bechdel, if your emotional default is fear, your subconscious will create protective but limiting behaviors. If your emotional default is confidence and calm, your subconscious will attract situations that reinforce it. This is why emotional intelligence is not just psychological, it's neurological. Each time you regulate your emotional state, you're literally retraining your brain's neural circuits. You're upgrading your internal code for success. It's to become so self-aware, self-regulated, and empathetically aligned that no emotion hijacks your truth. You will still feel fear, but it won't stop you. You will still feel anger, but it won't define you. You will still feel sadness, but it will deepen your wisdom, not your wound. Emotional intelligence turns life's turbulence into training, and your emotions into your allies. That's how you achieve true life mastery. Kiblis' final reflection. The calm within the storm. Imagine standing in the middle of chaos, noise, deadlines, expectations, yet inside you feel stillness. That's emotional intelligence in its highest form. Your external world can spin wildly, but your internal state remains composed, intentional, and clear. You've trained your brain, tamed your emotions, and taught your subconscious who's in command. This is where freedom lives. This is where personal power begins. You've become the master of your mind, and in mastering your emotions, you've mastered life itself.